Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. The series What If Transmigrated and Taking Over Ichigo's Body is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. Along with that, the series What If Becoming a Mangaka in One Piece World, 2 parts, will also be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next 2 projects for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if hosting Q&A in One Piece World? What if Transmigrated in Ben 10 World as Ben's cousin? What if Transmigrated in Danmachi World with a system? Please vote in the poll and let me know which stories you'd like to see next. I'll take the top 2 picks and start working on those series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 391, Snake in the Garden. Edward POV. Alex and I had been grinding through our AIDS research all summer in the lab, and just as the season wrapped up, we finally hit a breakthrough. We high-fived when the positive data projection lit up the monitor. It was a program created by Oscorp that I received from one of the gacha pulls. It was supposed to predict the synthesized medicine's effect with up to 99% accuracy. Just don't use it for lizard serum, and it'll be fine. You know, we should have drained all of your blood, Alex joked after she found out the antibody we were researching came from me. I rolled my eyes at her. We've done that 4 times already in the last few days. You're totally treating me like a blood bank. Suddenly, she held a scalpel and looked at me like a predator. If your blood is already that precious, I wonder what other treasures I could find if I dissect your body. Try it and you'll become the most wanted man in the world, I threatened jokingly. Or is this just an excuse to cut my shirt open? Alex blushed, taken aback by the retaliation. What? My girlfriend stared at me with an emotionless expression as she sat beside us. We should compile the paper now, Alex said, quickly changing the topic and the location. We went inside the mansion and worked in the living room. The research facility would take over the testing phase, and the new drug was already scheduled for clinical trials in a matter of weeks. We could have done this ages ago, Alex grumbled, clearly irritated that I hadn't started the research with her sooner. I shot back with equal frustration. How was I supposed to know it'd be this doable? It's AIDS. We thought it'd take 6 months just to get something mildly useful. You should be used to doing things fast by now, she countered. I narrowed my eyes. What's that supposed to mean? I last plenty long in bed. A pillow smacked me square in the face before I could finish defending my honor. I meant you're always fast with everything, she snapped, her face turning slightly red. Across the room, my girlfriend looked up from her phone and gave me a deadpan stare. Ness didn't mind Alex being around, at least not since the lab incident. But she made sure to keep us both well within her line of sight these days, just in case any academic tomfoolery happened again. It took hours to compile everything. We started in the morning, and it was nearly dinner time by the time we finished. Outside the house, summer was officially over. The Amazing Spider-Man had already been in theaters for 2 weeks, and word was it had crossed the $750 million mark. Sony was practically swimming in celebratory champagne. It looked like it would definitely break the billion-dollar milestone soon. I invited my friends to come over and watch it with me in the mansion. I had a copy of the movie at my place since I was the executive producer. The Amazing Spider-Man was like a breath of fresh air for me. It took attention away from the documentary. I really regret doing that documentary nowadays. Even the employees in my company were looking at me with reverence. It was suffocating. For the premiere, I attended with Ness, which made a lot of rumors about her being my girlfriend start swirling. However, The response online was particularly negative. Ness had to turn off her Instagram comment section. I wanted to record a video calling people out and criticizing their behavior, but Ness stopped me. A lot of my fans online backed her up and admonished the crazy ones on our behalf. The rumors died down on their own. Ness tried to act like it didn't bother her, but it did. She'd been slightly detached these last few days. I was trying hard to cheer her up. I even asked if she wanted me to beat up the trolls, but she said there was no need for that. She spoke less, and most of our time was spent just hanging out without doing much. Compared to when we went to the Bahamas. That trip was incredible. I miss seeing her like that, open, relaxed, happy. I wished she would open up to me about what she was feeling. Maggie and Amy were on my side, and they also tried to cheer her up, but it wasn't really effective. Maybe I should bring her on another trip abroad. Another retreat, maybe at Lake Como. My mansion there had been sitting empty ever since Leonard Hofstadter returned from Italy. He'd grown and changed a lot during his time away. Even without the NZT, he still carried that same underlying charm he had while under the influence of the drug. Sheldon thought he'd been replaced by a robot because of his sudden height increase and appearance changes, but Leonard eventually changed his mind, slowly, like approaching a skittish horse. Less than 3 days after Leonard got back, he and Penny started dating again. Apparently, Leonard tempted Penny with his changes, and she became intrigued. One last notable mention for the summer: one of the girls around me found herself pregnant. She made a series of bad decisions one night and fell in love with a short-haired delinquent. We were all shaken by it. Now, she's carrying a litter of his children. Yup. Vader got pregnant. There would be some kiddies in the mansion soon. I was shocked. Honestly, if anyone was going to be that irresponsible and get knocked up, I'd have bet on Max. I'm finally done! Alex stretched her back, raising her arms, which led to her stomach being exposed. She was really defenseless sometimes, even though she kept framing me as a perv. Yeah, and now you have to go back to school, I teased. She pursed her lips and said, I'm planning to graduate early. With this paper, I can skip a lot of the merits and jump straight to Caltech. As her family was already in talks with the Caltech dean, it was highly plausible. I was proud of her. Great. Then I can come visit you at the college, I said jokingly. Ness finally spoke. So you can meet some college girls? I turned to her and said, so I can poach the future talents there. Besides, if I wanted to find some attractive college girls, I wouldn't go to Caltech. Hey! Alex snapped, clearly offended. Hey, Ness. You want to come with us? I asked. We're having dinner at Alex's place. Alex didn't have a driver's license, so I offered to drive her back home. Phil drove her this morning. He also invited me to hang out and play Halo with him tonight after dinner. Ness shook her head, still glued to her screen. Nah. Maggie wants me to swing by. Said she met a guy? Again? I muttered to myself. Then she paused, glanced up, and added with a raised brow. Don't you think it's weird how you're still hanging out with your ex's family 2 years after you broke up? Alex perked up immediately and joined in with mock betrayal, sitting beside Ness and taking her side. Yeah. That's really weird, Ed. What's up with that? All right. I'm not going to go then, I told Alex, which stunned both girls. Yuri will send you back home. Really? Alex was confused. I nodded. Yeah. I'll call your dad and explain, so it'll be fine. Alex left, feeling a little anxious. She wondered if I bailed because of her words. But honestly, I was concerned about Ness. I took the phone from her hands and asked, Did I do something wrong again? Ness snapped, Not everything is about you, Newgate. Oh, but I think right now it is about me, I said. Or are you going to keep torturing yourself by reading the negative comments and then get pissy at everything? Ness went quiet for a while, then said, They said I'm only parasiting you. It's hard not to take that kind of thing personally. I sighed and sat down next to her. Just don't mind the comments anymore. We'll do other stuff so you won't stay glued to your phone, like finally bringing me to meet your family. She'd brought up her family a few times, always commenting on how I was still close with the Dunphys. She didn't say it out loud, but she was clearly upset that I spent effort with an ex's family but never tried to meet hers. In my defense, she didn't want me to. Her relationship with her family was rough. They basically disowned her after the nudes leakage incident. Still, I think she missed them. If you're afraid of me meeting your parents, what about your sister? She's in LA, right? We can dip our toes in slowly, see where it takes us, I suggested, brushing her hair gently to comfort her. She leaned into me and rested her head on my shoulder. I guess I can invite Stella here. Stella was her little sister. Now that's settled, anything else on your mind? I asked. Ness rolled her eyes, but then she actually thought of something. Why do you talk so much with Alex? I looked at her, confused and chuckling. We're friends? No, I mean you guys didn't stop talking for over an hour at one point. It was like watching a podcast. So loud and so long I tuned most of it out. Her tone wasn't angry, just curious. And a little disappointed. You never have that kind of conversation with me. Don't get me wrong, Ness. You're my girlfriend. But I don't think you can actually follow the conversation. And honestly, I don't think you'd find it interesting either. Most of what Alex and I talked about was science. Hypotheses, gene therapy, viral pathways, protein modeling, the kind of stuff Ness usually just zoned out from. Vanessa rolled her eyes, smacked my bicep, then walked away in a huff. Babe, where are you going? Come back, I called out jokingly. I'm going to call my sister, she yelled. And you? Go take a shower, you stink. I sniffed my body, confused. I smelled lemony fresh. I'd showered after the lab, so I had no idea what she was on about. I did call Phil afterward and explained the situation. We could still play online, but if Ness's sister came by, it'd be rude to be glued to Halo instead of getting to know her. While waiting, I prepped some food, changed shirts, and even sent the research paper to Bernadette. She called back almost instantly, shrieking with excitement at the prospect of a new cure. Her voice was so high I could barely hear anything. Ness also changed her clothes. She wore a mini black dress with a white collar and a ribbon at the back, making her look modest and elegant. Why are you wearing your I'm a good girl dress? I asked, confused, wrapping my arm around her waist as we stood together at the front door. Stella had just pulled in and was parking her car. Ness scratched her nose slightly and said, I just pulled this out randomly from the closet. There's no other meaning to it. She usually touched her nose when she lied. I guess she wanted to seem more grounded, more mature, maybe to fix her image with her family through this meeting. Stella burst inside and immediately rushed toward Ness, pulling her into a warm hug while still wearing a long trench coat. She was quite tall, about as tall as Claire, with slightly chubby cheeks and a not quite identical, but still recognizable resemblance to Ness. Ness beamed, her whole face lighting up. St. But before she could even finish her name and enjoy the warmth, Stella shoved her aside and lunged at me instead, throwing her arms around my neck with a squeal. She jumped up and down excitedly like we were long-lost lovers, yelling, Eddie! I've been dying to meet you! Both Ness and I froze. Stella. Nice to meet you too, I said awkwardly, prying her arms off me with careful pressure. She was trying to hold on longer than normal, applying some real strength into the hug, but it was nothing I couldn't handle. Ness's expression twisted. The left corner of her lip curled upward like it was being hooked by fishing wire, pure disbelief and simmering rage as she watched her sister cling to me. You should probably take off your coat, I said, trying to redirect the tension. Stella glanced down like she had just remembered what she was wearing. With a slow, deliberate motion, she untied the belt around her waist. You're right. I should have taken this off first. The coat dropped open. Stella, what the fuck? Ness exploded. Underneath the coat, Stella was wearing fishnet stockings, a barely there mini skirt, and a scandalously low-cut crop top that left almost half her chest spilling out. It was the kind of outfit you'd expect from a club girl or a high-class escort, not someone visiting her family. What? Oh, this? Don't be a prude. She deflected, brushing off Ness's anger before Ness could even fully react. Why are you wearing that to meet my boyfriend? Ness wasn't letting it go. She squeezed her body in front of me, blocking her sister from getting any closer. What? I always wear clothes like this. Stella argued heatedly. Then, in a split-second switch, she shifted into a meat pose, swaying her body and biting her finger as she looked at me. Edward, you love it, right? My eyes darted between Ness and her sister. You better stop now. Because my girlfriend will claw your eyes out if you keep looking at me like that, I said firmly, and a little sassily, while hiding behind Ness. Are you seriously trying to seduce my boyfriend in front of me right now? Vanessa stepped forward, full gangster mode, trying to intimidate Stella even though she was taller. Stella snorted. You can't keep him all to yourself. He belongs to the world. I've been begging you to let me meet him for years, and you ignored me. Vanessa blinked in disbelief, clearly taken aback. It's not like you have a chance anyway. Vanessa mocked. You whore! Stella snapped. Now you finally let me meet him, but only after making sure he's yours, just so you can rub it in my face. You sly, abhorrent little vixen. And with that, they both grabbed each other's hair and launched into a full-on fight. Wait. I pulled Ness back, wrapping my arm around her with my left hand, while pushing Stella's head with my right to keep them apart. This has clearly taken a wrong turn. Why don't we all calm down and talk about this like civilized people? I offered in a soothing tone. But both of them kept clawing at each other, even though they couldn't reach. I sighed, contemplating what I'd gotten myself into. Stella was forced to wear an oversized football jersey during dinner. It was mine. And I had a feeling I wasn't getting it back. So, I broke the silence as we ate. Stella, you've been asking Ness to meet up? Stella smiled at me, then turned and glared at her sister. Yes. But she ignored me. So, are you mad because she didn't let you meet me? Or because she ignored you in general? Isn't that the same thing? Ness squinted at me, grimacing in confusion. No. Similar, but not the same, I said. Stella was huffing, eyes locked on Ness. It's not the same, she snapped. Asking to meet Edward is a privilege. My privilege, as your sister. But you, ignoring me for years? You're a bad sister. Turns out, when Ness cut off her family, she shoved Stella away too. Stella had been defending her all along, but Ness treated her like the rest of their parents. It almost broke her. I didn't do that to hurt you, Ness said, her voice defensive and shaken. Then explain to me why you're only contacting me now? I moved to LA a year ago, but you're only inviting me to your place now? You didn't want to see me. I did. Ness insisted, caught off guard by the emotion in Stella's voice. I wanted to hang out with you too. But what? You abandoned me. You let me face our parents alone. I felt completely out of place. As the two sisters poured their hearts out, I just sat there eating my chicken in silence. Stella, despite being a fan of mine, hadn't actually been trying to get with me tonight. That whole act earlier? Just to hurt Ness. And it worked. Ness looked crushed, guilty. The two of them started crying and went to the living room to talk things out. I brought them some champagne and gave them space. Stella must have really missed her. The incident hadn't just scarred Ness, it had hurt the entire family. Back in my previous world, her scandal had been overshadowed by the Apple Cloud leaks, where countless celebrities had their private photos dumped online. It caused a media frenzy. Even though I did my best to scrub the internet clean, Ness became the face of the scandal, just because she was the most recent and the easiest to mock. If another mass leak happened today, no one would even remember her. But for the family, it had never ended. The media moved on, but they never really processed it. I smiled as I watched the two sisters make up. To be able to fight like that and be okay just a few minutes later, they were siblings, all right. It made me a little jealous. While I was standing by the couch, Sage suddenly appeared out of nowhere and marched toward me with purpose. Stella and Vanessa were startled. Ness immediately stood up. Anna? Why are you here? Edward, you need to come with me. Now. Sage grabbed my wrist and pulled me without explanation. Wait, Anna! Ness protested. I have plans with Edward tonight. Your plans can wait. This is urgent, a matter of life and death, Sage said, deadly serious. My face instantly mimicked hers. Stella scowled. Hey, lady! You can't just break into someone's house and snatch their boyfriend. Shut up, Stella, Ness snapped. Anna's not like you. Hey, I was helping you, Stella fired back. I turned to them with an apologetic smile. Sorry, Ness. Stella. I have to go now. I'll be back as soon as I can. Be careful, Edward, Ness shouted, not trying to interfere further. I'll call your dad. Wait, where did they go? Ness was confused. As soon as we stepped outside, Sage led me through a transparent film, like a rip in the fabric of the universe, and we arrived at the docks in a single step. Wait, did you just teleport us? I asked, eyes wide with excitement. But I quickly sobered up. It was the first time Sage had ever brought me anywhere using her powers. That meant this was really serious. A dark cloud churned above the sea, swallowing the moonlight. A violent whirlpool formed out of nowhere, spiraling with unnatural force. What's happening? I asked, bracing against the wind. Suddenly, a booming, menacing voice echoed from within the whirlpool, reverberating through the storm. I finally caught you, you thief! Chapter 392, Trial of Edward Newgate. Edward POV. A booming, menacing voice echoed from within the whirlpool, reverberating through the storm. I finally caught you, you thief! From the churning abyss, a monstrous galleon began to rise, the Flying Dutchman. Its bow breaking the surface with a groan like the wailing of tortured souls trapped beneath the waves. The ship was enormous, its warped hull carved from blackened, sea-soaked wood. Barnacles clung to every inch, crawling over rotting timbers like a disease. Algae hung in long, green streamers from the rails, and the entire vessel glistened with a slimy, sickly sheen. Its sails, tattered ink-black sheets, flapped violently in the storm winds. A ragged black flag whipped at the mast, half wrapped around a skull tangled in its fabric. Chains dragged across the deck, rusted and crusted with coral. A ghostly blue light pulsed faintly from deep within the hull, like trapped souls trying to scream their way out. The prow snarled forward, shaped like a monstrous sea creature with gaping jaws lined in jagged, rusted metal teeth. Along the sides, sea-caked cannons slid outward. The front cannon, the main gun, shifted into position with a loud clank, its mechanisms groaning to life. It was massive, sculpted like a kraken's eye, glowing orange from within, ready to fire some cursed payload dredged from the depths. Lightning flashed, illuminating the deck, where a figure stood, framed by storm and fury. He was part man, part fish. His peg leg scraped across the soaked planks, and his right arm had mutated into a twitching chitinous crab claw. Tentacles hung from his head like hair, writhing wetly. He had no beard, only barnacles crusting across his jaw. He raised his sword high, and his voice cut through the wind like a harpoon. I, Davy Jones, will make sure you suffer the consequences for stealing from me. The main cannon locked onto Sage and me. Sage? What should I do here? I asked, slightly lost. Sage sighed. First of all, let's calm him down. How? You should go and beat him up, she said dryly. I blinked at her, then grinned. Got it. Eat my wrath, you thief! Before the cannon could fire, I launched into the air using Skywalk, landed above him, and cocked my right fist, coating it with Haki and chakra, before punching downward. He blocked with his crab claw, startled. The impact echoed like thunder, blasting a shockwave across the ship and pushing it halfway back into the whirlpool. Ah! Davy shoved me off. From that clash alone, I could tell, he was strong. As strong as me. That'll be added to your debt, he shouted, lunging with his sword. If you want to charge me, you'll have to beat me first. I shot back, swinging my fist into his blade. Another shockwave burst outward, distorting the sea. Meanwhile, Sage crouched on the dock, resting her chin on her hands, watching the fight unfold. She'd cast a veil around us so no one could see the fight. I traded blow for blow with Davy Jones, finally, a fight on equal footing. I couldn't stop smiling. He too was slowly enjoying himself. Until, he slipped on a slippery deck surface and stumbled, which made me able to knock him out pretty easily. Eventually, I managed to bind him in the chains of his own anchor and restrain him above the deck. "Untie me, you villainous, thieving scum!" he roared, thrashing. My shirt was shredded again, and I was bleeding from multiple wounds. Sage floated up, walked over, and began healing me. "Davy," she said evenly. "What?" His thunderous tone faltered, becoming almost childlike. "Sis? Why are you here?" "I was about to ask you the same thing," Sage replied, before smacking him squarely on the head. His skull plunged straight through the deck, leaving a neat hole. I took a step back, mildly terrified of her. I had experienced that a lot before. Poor guy. Now that things were calmer, I finally had time to process who this guy was. Davy Jones, a name infamous across the seas, especially thanks to pirates of the Caribbean. A sea spirit who ferried drowned souls to the next world. Davy Jones' locker, a euphemism for the oceanic abyss, the final resting place of those lost at sea. As my dad was a man of the sea, he talked to me about Davy Jones before. I also heard of his name multiple times from the ship captains. Once he'd calmed down, Davy started explaining himself. "This kid, he stole from the locker. From me. He looted a whole bunch of stuff." His grand voice was gone. Now he just sounded like a brat tattling to his mom. Sage turned to me. I instinctively shook my head. "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did." "Nah." "Yeah." "Stop it. Both of you." Sage sighed. "Davy, start from the beginning." As it turned out, I had technically broken a rule. When I ransacked sunken ships and ruins for treasure, I'd unknowingly violated something called the Trial of the Locker, a spiritual agreement that Davy Jones oversaw. According to him, treasures lost at sea weren't simply abandoned. They were bound to the locker until someone earned the right to retrieve them through a trial. That trial involved effort, risk, and time. Fighting currents, surviving sea beasts, enduring storms. Only then would the treasure be released. They literally had to put their life on the line in this trial. Some items were deliberately placed in places humans could almost reach, but not quite. The temptation itself was part of it. I bypassed all of that with my overpowered telekinesis, casually yanking treasures from unreachable depths of the sea. And just like that, I understood exactly why he was so pissed. "Oh shit," I muttered. "I did rob the Davy Jones locker." "See? He admitted it." And just like that, I understood exactly why he was so pissed. "Now it's time for you to pay your debt," he said, standing up after Sage loosened the chain around him. "Wait." I was alarmed as I saw him reach for his sword, but instead, his hand went straight to his pocket, and he took out a glowing calculator. "Value of all the gold, gems, relics, and cursed cutlery you looted." Gold is $20 an ounce, the cups are around $10 each. He kept tapping the calculator at a high speed, which made my heart beat quicker. He showed the calculator screen to me, which made me scream in horror. "Ah. UOW Davy Jones, around $570,000. Mwahaha. Davy Jones laughed maniacally. And oh, wait, only 570,000? I was confused. And now, he continued, ignoring me, we calculate your labor cost. 1 shilling a week. That's, let's see, about 25 cents per week back then. Wait. I had a hunch that he didn't use the current era aspect of calculations. He hit the final button on the calculator. It displayed 570,000 divided by 0.25 is equal to 2,280,000 weeks. Which means, Davy said with joy, you'll work for me for, about 43,846 years. He laughed madly again. A glowing green contract appeared in front of me, and my name was automatically signed on it. But the 43,846 years changed into 73 minutes of manual labor. A golden cuff appeared around my wrists. I felt bound to the ship. But I can make that in an hour, though, I said, stunning him. Davy stopped laughing and stared at me blankly. 10 seconds later, he finally reacted. What? Davy Jones was flabbergasted. Yeah. I pressed my watch and a holographic projection shot out. Then I opened up my bank account and showed it to him. It was one of my main accounts, and it had over $50 billion in it. Davy Jones almost fainted from the shock. Are you perhaps the descendant of the Queen of Spain? No. I'm a musician, I replied. No. Musicians are poor, he argued. Sage smiled and said, he used the calculations from the 1700s. I guessed that, I said as I turned off the projection. With a smirk I said, so, should I give you back the $570,000 in cash, or should I exchange it for something of the same value? I had taken about $60 billion worth of treasures from the shipwrecks around the world. The actual values were lower, as many of those were precious because they came from under a shipwreck, not that they had any actual value on their own. Davy Jones was stunned speechless for a while. As he had closed the contract, he couldn't even change the terms on it. You ignored the trial. That is an offense in itself. The sea wouldn't let you get away that easily. He stammered and took out another device and put it in my hand. It was a silvery, 3-pronged fork. Or more accurately, a very small trident. Now! Be judged by the sea. He raised his hand upward to the stormy skies, which seemed to respond to him with flashes of lightning. You will be judged on your greed, your heart, and also your mind. My heart beats quicker again. The trident beeped, and he grinned. He snatched it back and then widened his eyes as he saw the judgment. A sentence made of water began to float from the prongs of the trident. He's so fine. Also, he's not guilty. Let him go. What? He was shocked. How could the sea let you off so easily? Sage interjected for me. Maybe because of his efforts in trying to clean it up. I did use my psychokinesis and shot the entire Pacific garbage patch into the sun. So I guess the sea and I have no problems with each other. I shrugged triumphantly. But what about greed? You've seen all of that gold. How are you not feeling greedy about the gold at all? He asked, bewildered. I could turn an ordinary rock into gold. So I wasn't tempted by the shipwreck treasures. Also, my intention for the treasures was to use that to build up the economy in Latin America. The sea judged my intentions and I was even rewarded by it. A ring appeared on my index finger. A blue ring that shined brightly underneath the stars. Sage was also surprised when she saw the ring, but she didn't comment on it. Davy Jones was incredibly depressed now. He squatted by the rails of the deck and pouted. Still, you have me for an hour. Do you want me to clean up the deck for you? I asked, feeling a little bad. Sage suddenly told Davy. You shouldn't ask him to do manual labor. Instead, why don't you ask him to give you another leg? One that won't rust in the water. I know you're already sick of using that wooden leg. New leg? I can do that. I nodded in agreement. He lost the fight mainly because of that leg. I had some spare parts for the androids that I was sure I could recalibrate to make a prosthetic leg for him. She also added, "Since you boys can handle everything by yourselves now, I'll be going back home to sleep. Make sure not to create any more trouble. I'm warning you, Jones." "Wait, Sage, where am I even?" I asked her as I was unfamiliar with the surroundings. "Are you going to pick me up later?" She paused and said, "Cuba." And no. Jones came to search for me in Cuba because I hid the gold and treasures here. He was following the curse of the sea on those treasures. Luckily, I didn't have anyone find the treasures just yet, so no one was implicated by the curse. The sea lifted the curse immediately after the judgment. Now, I could use the treasures freely. Sage disappeared. I stared after her in disbelief, wanting to say something but also too stunned to speak. Jones had a similar reaction. "Why don't we get started on that new leg right now?" I said to Jones as I pulled up a glowing barrel and sat on top of it. "I also have a lot of questions, if you don't mind." Jones paused for a few seconds before shrugging and answering casually, "Sure. I'll answer what I can." I scanned his leg with my watch, and a holographic projection of his body was on display. Jones was an ordinary sailor in the early 1700s when his ship was shot down by pirates. He lost his arm and leg, and was left to die alone on the wreck, adrift at sea with a broken mast. When he died, the sea turned him into the guiding spirit for the souls who lost their lives at sea. Hence, the start of the Davy Jones legend. He told me he didn't do much, just drove his ship back and forth between here and the afterlife to guide souls. It was so boring, sometimes he just let the ship steer itself as he shut down his mind and slept in the captain's cabin. Unlike Pirates of the Caribbean, Jones could apply for breaks anytime he wanted. He didn't have to wait a whole decade to come to the surface world. "I've shared my story. Now it's your turn," Jones said. "How did you die?" he added. I looked at him with disbelief. "I'm alive, though." "Well, I was dead once." He flinched back in shock. "Wait. You're immortal?" "Yeah," I said, confused. "A mortal can fight with me like that?" "I'm also an afterlife agent, so..." "Ah. That's it." He finally understood. He relaxed a bit more once I told him I was an afterlife agent. He said that technically made me his coworker. "Your ship, is it always like this?" I asked him. "Always eerie and slimy." I looked around and grimaced. He shook his head. "No. But I can only use ships that were shipwrecked at sea. This one's in better condition than most." I nodded in understanding. "So you can't use a normal ship?" "I can. But how could I even buy one?" He shrugged. "Well, I owe you $570,000. So if you want, I can build a ship for you. With additional features that won't make you feel bored during your work hours." I took $60 billion, so I felt bad only paying him $570,000. His eyes lit up in excitement, and he began telling me what kind of ship he wanted. General POV. After Edward's sudden departure, Frankie and Ted came to the mansion, hoping to understand what had happened. But neither Edward's girlfriend, his maid, nor even his AI could offer anything beyond a single explanation. Sage took him away. So the three of them, Frankie, Ted, and Vanessa, waited in the living room, restless and concerned. Stella was there too, sitting quietly as the air grew heavy with uncertainty until she couldn't take it anymore and went to have some fun in the arcade. Nearly an hour passed in tense silence before Frankie's phone rang. She answered it in a heartbeat. "Eddie? Where are you?" she asked urgently. "At the sea." "Frankie, I need some help," Edward replied, knowing that Frankie was there in the mansion. He wanted to ask Yuri to do it, but Yuri was summoned by Robin to do some work for her, leaving an actual maid in the house to do the cleaning. Ted leaned in, face full of urgency. "Is that Edward? What did he say?" Vanessa rushed over as well, anxious, trying to catch a word from the call. Her heart sank the moment Frankie relayed the message. "He needs some help. Frankie said softly. Ted furrowed his brows, concern etched into his face. Vanessa, too, looked disheartened. She mumbled, "Why didn't he call me for help?" But Frankie gestured for her to wait and stop, as it wasn't the time to ask Edward that question. "What do you need, Edward?" Frankie asked in a lowered voice, stepping slightly away from the others to give the call some privacy. "I need you to pick up some stuff for me and put it in the jet. Wu Jin is flying it to me. Also, I need you to buy every single DVD and album you can get. You know what, it'd be better for me to give you a list." Frankie blinked. "Huh? What do you need that for?" Her worry shifted into something between disbelief and confusion. "So you need me to buy stuff, not help you in a fight?" "Oh, the fight has already ended. I won," Edward said with a snicker. "Although my clothes are destroyed again." Who did you fight?" Frankie whispered, glancing over her shoulder and shielding the phone as if protecting a secret. She knew if Edward's shirt was impacted, that meant it was a particular rough fight, like the ones he had with the super soldiers. "Davy Jones. But it's fine. Although I owe him a debt, so I'm going to need to do some of his bidding. He wants a new ship. I'm building him one with an entertainment room." Frankie stood still, internalizing what she was hearing. Her tone stayed calm, but the color in her face betrayed a flurry of thoughts. "I see," she replied, then added more seriously. "What else do you need me to do?" "Nothing. Just go into my lab and get some prosthetic arm and leg for me." Then Edward asked casually, "Do you want to see what Davy Jones looks like?" "No, I don't think I want to," Frankie answered instantly. "Although I will accept some description from you." "Well, he looked around my age. He has a peg leg, a crab hand, squid tentacles as hair, and barnacles on his chin. Wait, he's telling me he can scrape off the barnacles. He only put them there as an accessory. He wanted to look like he had a beard to look older." Hearing that made Frankie exhale through her nose with something resembling relief. If Edward could banter like this with Davy Jones, then whatever debt he owed clearly wasn't a hostile one. When Frankie ended the call, Vanessa immediately asked, "What did he want?" "For me to pick up some stuff for him. He's dealing with a friend right now, so he might not be back for the next 2 or 3 days," Frankie said as she pocketed the phone. Vanessa sighed, visibly disappointed. "So I'm not trustworthy enough for him to tell me all the details, huh? Is that only for family?" Ted stepped in gently. "I don't think so. He's not telling me anything either." Vanessa blinked in surprise. That realization softened the sting. If even Ted, one of Edward's closest family, was being kept in the dark, then maybe it wasn't personal. Meanwhile, Frankie headed toward the hidden lab. Edward gave her access to the subterranean level. She had never been here before. What she found was astonishing. A 5-level subterranean complex hidden beneath the mansion. She paused at the threshold, staring at the rows of tech inside the lab she gained access to. "Just how deep does the secret go?" she mumbled, yet she didn't venture out of her requirement, and only picked up the stuff Edward needed. In Cuba, Edward showed some pictures to Davy Jones and asked him to pick a design for his new ship. He showed some real-life ships and even one from animes. Davy Jones picked the Whitebeard Pirates ship, the Moby Dick, and was even intrigued by the internet. "If I have access to this thing, then I won't be bored when I'm doing my work. Can you add this to my ship?" "It depends. I need to know exactly how you operate so I can see if it's feasible," Edward replied. Chapter 393 Vow. Edward POV. "So, what is this ring?" I asked, examining the emerald blue gem. "That's the gift of the sea," Davy explained. We sat side by side on a bench at the docks, a small gap between us, waiting for the delivery. I leaned back and turned my head left toward the sea. Davy leaned forward, facing right, taking in the sight of the mountains. "Really? The sea gives me jewelry?" I said, fiddling with the ring. I tried to take it off but quickly realized I couldn't. "Huh!" I tugged harder, only hurting my finger. I turned to Davy, astonished. Wait. Why can't I take it off? This isn't one of those genres where a ring appears on your finger and suddenly you're promised to some supernatural being, right? I was only 17. I didn't want to get married yet. There are genres like that? Davy blinked in surprise. Wait, I'm not one of the supernatural beings, am I? He looked curious, and a little horrified. I pulled out my phone. Let's find out, shall we? Oracle, search for any fanfic with Davy Jones as the love interest. Oracle responded instantly. I found 422 fanfics on Wattpad featuring Davy Jones as a romantic interest. Most are set in the Pirates of the Caribbean universe. Oh, Davy. I gave him a sympathetic look. You might want to stay far, far away from those. I'm pretty sure there's gonna be a tentacle play tag on them. Oracle chimed in. 321 of them include that tag. Davy was speechless. I decided to steer the conversation back. So, what does this ring do? And why can't I take it off? You can take it off, he said. But if you do, it'll disappear, and you won't be able to get it back. As for what it does, go stand by the sea. I sighed and begrudgingly walked to the end of the pier. Now what? He threw his sword at me. I dodged by bending backward, but the motion made me lose balance. And I fell into the water. I grumbled as I hit the surface. That bitch, wait! The shock of the cold water faded almost instantly as I sank deeper. My first instinct was to hold my breath, but I didn't need to. I could breathe. Air, or something like it, filled my chest with every calm breath. I checked for gills on my body, but there were none. Not only that, I could see perfectly. The darkness of night didn't seem to reach down here. The water was bathed in silver-blue luminescence. The corals shone like they were illuminated by moonlight. My hands floated before me, and when I moved them, the water obeyed. No resistance. No awkward flailing. Just smooth, precise motion. I kicked lightly, and my body surged forward. I twisted, turned, flipped, and each time, the ocean moved with me like it knew me. Like it welcomed me. What, oh my God! I whispered, my voice echoing oddly inside my head. It wasn't just swimming. It was like I was the water. Schools of fish glided past, unafraid, brushing against my arms as though greeting an old friend. I dove deeper. The pressure didn't crush me. Then I heard it, a song. Faint, melodic, and coming from everywhere. Not in my ears, but in my bones. A lullaby of currents and whale song. A beautiful melody. Sirens? I thought. Davy Jones is real, so I guess sirens are too? I rose to the surface slowly. Davy stood on the pier, grinning like he knew exactly what I'd just gone through. See? He said. Gift of the sea. I activated a wind spell and dried my wet clothes instantly. It's not a bad gift. I commented. That's not all. Try channeling your mind into the ring. He added. My mind? All right. I focused. My green eyes began to glow blue. Suddenly, I could feel the sea, like a map unfolding inside my mind. I saw the currents, whirlpools, ships, shipwrecks, and more. I could only hold it for a minute before the strain overwhelmed me. You're part of the world now, Davy explained with an ominous grin. Welcome. Why? I asked, confused. Is it because I cleaned up the sea? Is that it? Davy nodded. I don't know what you did, but you definitely did something right. The ring, it's made from your karma. Wear it, and you'll never have to face a storm. Your ships will never turn over. And your crew? They'll be under Davy Jones's protection and never be harmed, as long as they're at sea. I see. I fiddled with the ring again. It's a great gift. As my dad was always traveling on the sea, this was a phenomenal gift for me and my family. How did you know so much about the ring? Do you also have one of these? I asked casually. I did, he replied after a while, his eyes full of nostalgia. But I gave that to someone else. I lowered my tone. Your family or your lover? He kept his eye on the mountain and replied, She's my family, and also my everything. My ring glowed, and my mind was pulled into another space. The sea never forgets. I was watching him from a third-person point of view, the event that was witnessed by the sea. Davy Jones was a young sailor, barely a young adult. He had a wife and a young son who was just born. He kissed his wife on the forehead and said affectionately, I promise I'll come back. His son grabbed Davy's finger as his wife held him. Davy's chin quivered, and he almost cried. When he met with the pirates on the sea, he fought them with all of his might, as he wanted to return to his family. But the cannon shell hit him, taking his arm and legs away. He floated on the sea aboard the ship with a broken mast, slowly dying. That's when he begged the sea. He wanted to see his wife again. He wanted to hold her, and be with her. He wanted to keep her safe from all of the dangers in the world. The sea granted his request, but he had to work as a spirit guide to those who lost their lives at sea. As Davy Jones, he saw his family live without him from afar. He saved them from those who intended to harm them without them knowing. But he never showed his new appearance to his wife or child. He was afraid that they couldn't accept him. Years passed. His son became a man, got married, and had children of his own. His wife's hair turned silver, and her face lined with time. But her eyes always stayed soft when she looked out to sea. She never remarried. Davy Jones stood near her in those final years, always watching, always silent. And when she passed, peaceful in her sleep, he was there. At her bedside. Holding her hand. On her finger was a ring. The same one I now wore. My mind returned to the present. Barely a second had passed since I witnessed his life story. But it wasn't just his memories. I also received something else, a request. Why didn't you ever show yourself to her? I asked, my voice shaking slightly. Davy turned to me in confusion. His gaze drifted to the ring, and instinctively he knew I'd seen something I wasn't supposed to. He understood and replied, How could I? After breaking every promise I ever made to her? But, don't, he snapped. Don't bring it up again. That story's 200 years old. There's nothing you can say or do that'll change any of it. I held my tongue and swallowed the bitterness in my throat. The airship arrived, and Woojin brought everything I asked for. Sir? Where are you? Woojin called, even though I was standing right in front of him. Huh? Jean, you can't see me? I asked. I can hear you, sir. But I can't see you, he replied, puzzled. I turned to Davy, and he pointed to the golden cuff on my wrist. You're bound to the ship for now. Technically, you're a spirit. Oh, I muttered. Jean, apparently I'm a spirit now. Woojin looked thoroughly confused, but I didn't bother explaining further. I fitted Davy Jones with the prosthetic leg and arm while my carpenter androids continued building his ship. You might finish it earlier than I thought, Davy said, eyes gleaming as he watched the Moby Dick take shape. Using a screwdriver, I adjusted the prosthetic hand. Yeah. Then you can go back to doing your job. Although, I have something to ask. He sighed, already bracing himself. I asked anyway. The sea never told you to do this forever. Davy fell silent. You were never meant to do this forever. Fury flickered in his eyes. Stop it, Newgate. You have no idea what you're talking about. I looked down at the prosthetic in my hands, then muttered. Believe me. I understand more than you think. I tossed the arm toward him. He caught it midair with his crab claw. Oh, do you now? He said mockingly. He set the arm down and ripped off the clawed limb from his shoulder, then attached the prosthetic. It clicked into place and hissed softly as it calibrated. To his surprise, he could move it, just like the old one. The leg will take a bit more time, I said. Meanwhile, wanna play It Takes Two? I turned on the 80-inch TV and showed him the game. Davy blinked, intrigued. A game? I'd like to play some games. He sat beside the couch Woojin had dragged over, and we played together. My Android workers looked baffled as the controllers floated and the game played on its own. The day passed quickly. Davy learned more about the modern world and was fascinated by the idea of having his own game room. We're building a depressurization chamber, like in a submarine, so the room stays dry. Otherwise, the electronics will be ruined, Woojin explained, still unable to see me. I looked at the blueprint and said, About that. I want to see more of this girl, Davy said later, holding a DVD copy of I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 1997 version. I glanced at it. Who? Jennifer Love Hewitt or Sarah Michelle Gellar? He paused. Yes. I rolled my eyes. Though deep down, I kind of knew who he meant. His wife had resembled Jennifer Love Hewitt. And I've seen your other recommendations, he added, pulling out the Lord of the Rings trilogy. He watched all 3 films, took him 11 hours. By the time he finished, I'd already completed the ship. It took me 56 hours total, the ship and the prosthetics. Davy no longer hobbled like a peg-legged relic. No longer wore a tattered sailor's uniform. No more barnacles clinging to his face. Now he looked dashing in a navy blue suit, black shoes, his tentacle beard slicked back, and a matte black prosthetic arm. He even carried a new sword, one I'd forged for him from meteorite metal, imbued with my enchantment. Are you all ready now? I asked him. He smiled and said, Yeah. I'm ready to go back to the sea. No, I think you misunderstood something, I said, taking out a black katana from a silver case. It was my personal sword, and it was the first time I was ever using it against an opponent. I'm not sending you back to the sea, I said, picking up the sword and holding a fighting stance toward him. Davy was surprised and asked, What? Do you want a rematch? No, Captain. Since I'm part of your crew, technically it's a mutiny. He was stupefied. You want the captain's position? He asked. I nodded and said, Yeah. And then, I'm going to send you back. To her. Davy's gaze changed immediately. He became sharper. Again, you have no idea what you're doing, Newgate, he said, pulling out his own sword. For the sake of my duty, even if I have to cut off all your limbs, I'm going to return to my work and guide the souls to the afterlife. No. Your duty ended hundreds of years ago. You're still holding on to it because you're too afraid to move on. Afraid? What am I afraid of? Davy scoffed. You're afraid she'll be waiting for you, and you won't have any excuses to tell her why you're so late to return and be with her. I dashed forward, shouting in fury as I slashed the blade at him. He blocked it by using his sword as a shield, holding on to the slash with both hands. Arg! He groaned madly and kicked me in the stomach. But I spun midair and kicked him in the head as I was flung away, which made both of us fly in opposite directions. I had already cleared up the area before. No one would interfere with our fight now. I puked out some blood and wiped my mouth with the back of my hand. Captain, as your first mate, I'm going to beat some sense into you. His cheek was bruised, and he spat out a tooth. Before I cut you up, I'm giving you one last chance to stop, Davy Jones said menacingly. Dark clouds began swirling in the sky, and rain started to pour, heavily. The once calm sea turned furious. No can do. I received a request. So I'm going to give it all I've got. Request? What request? Davy Jones asked. I activated my Sharingan and pulled him into a memory. A request from the sea. Davy Jones's eyes widened as he saw the memory. I dashed forward, and we exchanged blow after blow. General POV. Inside the plane heading home, Edward lay in the cargo hold, healing himself with the mystical palm technique. The large sword wound on his stomach slowly began to close. He spat out more blood as Woojin desperately flew the plane back to LA to get him to Sage. Pooh coo ha! Edward suddenly laughed, despite the blood still on his lips. Woojin, play track number 197 for me. I think it's appropriate for this moment. Stop talking, sir. I'll play the song, just stop talking. Woojin said urgently. All I want, Kodalin. The soft music began to play, Edward's own voice singing the cover.
All I want is nothing more, to hear you knocking at my door.
During the fight, Edward had pulled Davy Jones into a memory from the sea itself. Davy saw his wife crying by the dock, begging the sea to return her husband in exchange for her own life.
'Cause if I could see your face once more, I could die a happy man, I'm sure.
Edward punched him mid-memory. Open your eyes.
When you said your last goodbye, I died a little bit inside. I lay in tears in bed all night, alone without you by my side.
Davy watched his wife nearly take her own life, only stopped by their toddler son.
But if you loved me, why'd you leave me? Take my body, take my body.
As the years passed, the wife began to notice someone was protecting her from the shadows. She knew it was him when gold nuggets appeared in her bed.
All I want is, and all I need is, to find somebody. I'll find somebody.
She cried endlessly, longing to meet him again. But Davy, the coward, never showed himself. Edward grabbed Davy's collar. How could you doubt her love? How could you leave her waiting all this time?
So you brought out the best of me, a part of me I've never seen. You took my soul and wiped it clean. Our love was made for movie screens.
Davy's eyes turned glassy. He pushed Edward back and let out a shaky, bitter laugh. I am Davy Jones, the spirit of the sea. I am no longer a human being. How can I be with a mortal woman?
But if you loved me, why'd you leave me? Take my body, take my body.
Edward's face twisted in fury. In the memory, even at the deathbed, his wife still held out hope that he would return to her. How can you even say that? Davy lunged forward, but there was no strength in his strike. I cannot break my vows. I am Davy Jones. The sea did just fine for millions of years before you were even born. Captain, with this mutiny, I hereby relieve you of your vows, and your duty.
All I want is, and all I need is, to find somebody. I'll find somebody.
They clashed again. Davy slashed Edward's stomach, but Edward caught the blade between his abdominal muscles and thrust his own sword through Davy's heart. Davy stammered. His legs gave out, and he fell to his knees. Looking up at Edward, he gave a soft, regretful smile. She's going to be pissed at me, isn't she? Edward smiled through the pain. Yeah. But once she's done beating you up, she'll be thrilled to see you again. You never even built that entertainment room, did you? Davy Jones asked with a strange chuckle. Edward laughed and said, No.
Why'd you leave me? Take my body. Take my body.
You win, Newgate, Davy Jones whispered, as his body dissipated into soft, glowing light. Thank you, he said, just before he vanished.
All I wanted and all I needed to find somebody, I'll find somebody like you.
Edward plopped to the ground, and the golden cuff on his hand disappeared. The Moby Dick slowly submerged itself into the sea without anyone steering it. Wu Jin finally saw Edward and rushed to help him. Back on the plane, as Edward was listening to the song, he suddenly felt a warm hand on his abdomen. He turned and saw Sage healing him. His wounds were closing at a rapid speed. You were supposed to get along with Davy. How did it turn out with him resigning? Sage asked. Edward chuckled and said, I'll tell you all about it later. Afterlife, train station. Davy found himself with a ticket, and he walked through the gate of the train station. Then he saw her. Dressed in the same clothes she was wearing when he left her. His chin quivered, and his hand shook. She heard his footsteps and turned immediately. Tears fell down her cheeks as she slowly stood up and walked toward him. Without saying anything, she hit him in the chest. She hit him a couple of times, wanting to resent him, but she couldn't hold it in anymore. Davy let it happen, and he grabbed her hand and inched closer to her. I'm back, he whispered, tears falling down his cheek. I'm finally back. I've waited for you for so long, she cried as she dashed into his embrace. I know, he struggled out. She cried her heart out in his embrace. Then, he saw a man standing inside the train, waiting for him. Dad? The man called. Davy and his wife held hands as they entered the train together. In another life. I still want to be with you, his wife said. And I you? Davy brushed her hair behind her ears. This is my new vow, he added. Chapter 394. Finish line. Edward POV. I already missed him, I muttered in the Quinjet as we flew back home. My wounds had closed up quickly, and I had regained most of my energy. Sage glanced over. You knew him for 3 whole days. To true friendship, how long you've known each other means nothing, I said, pointing a smug finger at her. Bonkley. Sage nodded, catching the reference. I told her everything, what I saw, what I remembered. She said I'd done a brave thing, trying to reach someone that stubborn. Do you know anything about the ring? I asked as I showed her the blue ring. She nodded and said, yes. But she didn't explain, which was a dick move. Any chance you can tell me about it? I asked after rolling my eyes in disbelief. She shrugged, not saying anything. How do I explain the ring to my girlfriend? She's going to think I disappeared for 3 days to cheat on her, I said, concerned. Sage replied, Don't worry. Normal people can't see the ring. That's better then, I said, sighing in relief. When we landed, my dad and Frankie hugged me tightly. They looked shaken by my sudden disappearance. My girlfriend rushed over as soon as she heard I was back. I had already thrown away the bloodied shirt, so no one noticed I'd been injured. Wait. Something happened, Vanessa said, stepping back after hugging me. I blinked. What do you mean? You look gaunt. Did you get injured again? Her eyes narrowed. I scoffed, hesitating. No. But my friend did die, I added honestly. Her eyes widened, and her chin quivered before she pulled me into another hug and started crying. A few days passed. It felt surreal, not the meeting with the sea spirit, but his life story. I kept wondering if he met his wife in the afterlife, just to see her one last time. And to be honest, I found myself yearning for a love like that. While processing and trying to move forward from the experience, I released the prosthetics to the market. It shocked the country, again. But by now, people had begun adjusting to all these changes. Then the AIDS breakthrough dropped. The country was stunned. I open-sourced the formula, allowing anyone in the world to produce the medicine without restrictions. Unlike the diabetes cure, which required precision in stem cell cultivation and coordination with certified labs, the AIDS treatment was simpler. It could be produced quickly and hit the market faster. The diabetes cure itself was already tearing across borders. Labs from Tokyo to Cape Town had begun coordinating production. Insurance companies froze. Lobbyists panicked. But ordinary people? They called it a miracle. My image, which was already sky-high, broke the ceiling, and I became a sort of godly figure on the internet. People memed a lot, using the Grim Reaper knocking on doors format, labeling the Reaper as me, and the two bloody doors as AIDS and diabetes, while I knocked on the cancer door. I threw myself into work for the next few weeks. I received a few offers to visit children's hospitals and unveiled the prosthetics myself. It was a good PR move, but instead, I let RDJ and the Avengers cast do it. Even Andrew Garfield, Emma Stone, and Maggie took part, spreading the word and positivity to kids everywhere. A lot of politicians wanted me to endorse them. Some even asked me to show up at their rallies. I ignored them. As for Now You See Me, I figured it was the perfect time to release it. The super soldier incident was still fresh in people's minds. Many tried to talk me out of it, pushing for marketing campaigns first. But in the end, I vetoed every one of their suggestions and released the film straight to market a week after principal photography wrapped, and I edited everything. Opening weekend? $300 million. Everyone shut up after that. RDJ and the rest of the cast were thrilled. Kate Upton, Lindsay Fonseca, and Wyla Holland jumped from D and C-list status to solid B-list fame. Lindsay became a household name almost overnight thanks to her role. She was almost at A-level. If another one of her movies succeeded, she'd pass the barrier. For some reason, Britney hired Fonseca to act as her character in a self-produced movie. The film had already started shooting and would be filmed mostly in Italy. It was now mid-September. I'd been coasting for about 3 weeks since the Davy Jones incident. My flow had been interrupted, and I'd become slightly depressed, I think. My girlfriend did everything she could to cheer me up, even wore cat ears once. But it didn't work. With everything going on, I laid low at the Dunphys' house, playing Halo with Phil like none of it mattered. Claire walked in during her lunch break and froze when she saw me lounging in the den. "Edward! There you are! So many people are trying to find you!" she scolded, storming toward the couch, slightly off balance from how fast she moved. I turned and raised an eyebrow. "Really? You're mad at me? Your husband canceled the house showing just to play Halo, and I'm the one you're coming after?" Phil gasped. "Traitor. He's fine. His job is more of a hobby nowadays." Claire waved it off, then turned to me. "You could have at least texted us." I took out my phone and held it flat in my hand. A holographic projection of my chats popped up to show Claire the thousands of messages I'd received, just today. Claire was stunned for a moment and said, "Well, that can be a little unnerving. I guess it makes sense you wanted to hide out here. People are trying to get him here and there," Phil said with frustration. "We can't even play Halo in peace." I snickered. "Because of that, Phil managed to kill me twice," Phil said seriously. "I won that kill fair and square." "Well, I had won 36 times to his 2, so I wouldn't hold it against him. Why are you back, Han? Phil asked Claire, wondering why she had returned home during lunch when she usually spent it with Frankie and the other office workers. Claire replied excitedly, I'm taking a half day. Alex is going to drive by. She's back from college, so I think she'll probably bring some laundry with her, and I want to cook something special for her visit. She turned to me and asked, So boss, can I work only a half day today? I smiled and asked jokingly, Wait, are you going to play hooky if I didn't respond to your texts? You have no prior confirmation. This behavior can be reported to HR. I think I'll be fine since Frankie is handling HR. Claire joked. You know, your pregnant mother who happens to be my best friend, and I'm her maid of honor at the wedding. Fine. I rolled my eyes in defeat. She grinned and said formally, I've turned over my work to Sunhee, so don't worry about it. Also, she wants you to call her about Mythic Quest. She wants to fire Max because he keeps annoying her. I'll give her a call later. I replied, turning back to Halo. Phil suddenly said, AFK. Ben ran to Claire after taking off his headphones. I'm playing alone then, I said, creating a new game. Go ahead. Phil agreed, and as he got to the kitchen, he pulled Claire aside and whispered. He asked me some really deep questions before. I think something is happening to him, but I can't get it out of his mouth. Claire widened her eyes slightly, intrigued by the promise of gossip. What did he ask you? He asked me the difference between reverence, or worship, and love. He also asked if love felt different when you were married. Edward, you're too young to get married. Claire suddenly snapped, stomping toward me again. I was startled and almost missed my shot. Wait, I'm pausing, I said, turning to her. By that time, both Claire and Phil were already beside me. What? I'm not getting married. I looked at her, confused. Where did you get that idea? Then what's this about asking if love feels different after you get married? Claire asked while Phil held her by the shoulders. Get off, I'm not going to lunge at him. Claire shook Phil's hands away. But you seem like you might, Phil added. This honestly feels threatening, I said jokingly, but with a straight face. Claire rolled her eyes and sat on the ottoman beside the couch. Happy now? She asked. There's not much of a difference. Maybe it's the eyes, Phil commented. Claire squinted, flabbergasted. What? I chuckled slightly. I miss seeing this. Claire and Phil exchanged a quick glance. Claire and Phil's commentary. There's something wrong. He doesn't feel like he has his usual energy, Phil said, gesturing vaguely with his hand, confused by his own choice of words. No. Not in the physical sense. He plays around like usual, but it's like he's afraid of something, so he's not putting all of his energy into it, Claire said, making the same circling motion Phil did. Phil snapped his fingers, agreeing instantly. That's it. That's what I was going to say. Commentary ended. So what happened? Claire asked. Why do you want to know if love changes after marriage? Phil suddenly gasped. I turned to him slightly and said, No. My dad isn't cheating on my stepmom. Oh. Okay. Phil looked awkward as I caught his train of thought. Edward. Focus, Claire said firmly, pulling my attention back. What happened? I sighed and said, Well, I'm new at this, so I'm not really sure how it works. Ness and I, well, she's my longest relationship. Like ever. Counting all of the lives. So since it's not the same feelings you had at the beginning, you don't know if you two are just staying together for the sake of the relationship, or if you don't really have feelings for each other, Claire guessed. I nodded slightly and said, Well, there are feelings. Like lust. Stop, Phil said with an uncomfortable expression, pulling his face away. Before I could continue, the doorbell rang. It must be Alex, Claire said excitedly, standing up. Ed, hold on for 5 minutes. Sure. I shrugged casually. Phil and Claire went to open the door, but instead of Alex, another daughter had returned home. "Surprise!" Haley said, arms wide in celebration. Claire was astonished. "Haley? What are you doing here? Class is cancelled tomorrow. Something about Pika virus on campus, so everyone had to go back home," Haley said as she dragged a huge bag behind her. It was a laundry bag half her size, and she really struggled with carrying it. "Some help?" she asked her dad. Phil grabbed the bag but nearly stumbled under the weight. "Did you carry your entire wardrobe home? Don't be silly. This is just a week's laundry," Haley replied as she waltzed inside, and froze when she saw me leaning against the wall, smiling at her. "Pika virus? Really, no one caught that," I muttered with a teasing smirk. "Why are you posing?" Phil whispered to himself as he looked at me in disbelief. Claire raised an eyebrow, trying to figure it out, and asked, "Did you mean Zika virus?" "Why, yeah, that," Haley stammered, then turned to me. "Why are you here?" Phil blurted out. "He's here to ask what happens when you get married." "Married? Are you going to propose?" Haley gasped. I squinted. "How did you react the exact same way as your mother?" It didn't take long for the other daughter to show up. Alex walked in through the open door and immediately confronted Claire. "Mom, did you seriously pack a box of condoms in my bag when you sent me to college?" Alex fumed. Haley and I gasped in unison at the topic, while Phil looked at Claire, wide-eyed. "You did what?" Claire turned flustered and tried to change the subject. "Alex, honey, how's college treating you? Don't change the subject. Do you know how embarrassed I was when the box fell out of my luggage while I was unpacking this morning? My roommate wouldn't stop giggling," Alex said, her face bright red as she pulled the box from her purse. "Honey, I just didn't want you to get caught unprepared." "You're a college student now," Claire said, frantically apologizing while reaching for Alex's shoulders. "So you celebrated my college life by giving me 24 condoms?" Alex shot back, mockingly. 24? What are you preparing her for? All 4 years of college? Phil asked, pulling Alex protectively to his side. "This is my daughter you're giving that stuff to. 4 years? That lasted me like a long weekend with." I started, then trailed off as all eyes turned to me. Alex suddenly noticed I was there and turned beet red. "Hey! How long have you been standing there?" "Long enough. Also, Claire, seriously?" I gave Claire a disapproving look. "Thank you," Alex said, thinking I was on her side. "It's Alex. Nothing will happen," I added mockingly. Alex whipped around, furious, lunging at me as if she were going to hit me, but Phil stopped her. "Now that both you and your sis have gone to college, your mom must have felt pretty lonely, huh?" I said to Alex as we sat in the den. "Do you think she has empty nester syndrome yet?" Alex questioned cheekily as she watched her mom talk to Haley and Phil in the kitchen. Haley sat next to us and said to me, "Mom is going to pick up Lily from daycare first. Then she'll come back to finish the talk." "Ah, so she had already replaced you girls," I teased. Haley and Alex rolled their eyes simultaneously. "What are you guys talking about?" Alex asked. "Nothing much. How about you?" "How's college?" I asked Alex. Haley furrowed her eyebrows and grumbled. "Wait, you're asking her first? You've been in college for a year. There's not much to talk about anymore." Alex joked. Haley spat out. "Well, I can talk to him about something else. Do you want to? 'Cause I can give you guys some privacy," Alex said mockingly. I felt uncomfortable with their gazes and jumped from the couch immediately, jogging to Claire, who was going out of the house. "Claire, why don't I go and pick up Lily? I promised her I'd stop by sometime." "I can do that now." "Really? Oh, okay. Sure. I can get started on lunch then," Claire replied, a little taken aback. "I thought we were ordering pizzas." Phil was depressed. "Or, we can both go there together," Claire said and pulled me away. "That works too," I shrugged. Hey, are you guys going to have a secret talk in the car without any of us breaching your privacy? You coward, Alex said sarcastically. I don't know. Also, Alex, I thought you were going to be an advocate for respecting people's privacy. I didn't ask why there are 3 condoms missing from the box, so why don't you let me and your mother go pick up Lily in peace? Phil turned to Alex, his eyes widening in shock and horror. Alex? He asked, voice shaking slightly. Alex was flabbergasted. No. He's lying. I didn't even open the box. Phil immediately went to check it, and Alex followed him quickly after spewing. I hate you. To me. Claire asked while we walked to the car. The box was open. No, I did it and I hid the packets in several places in your den, I said with a mischievous grin. Claire rolled her eyes before laughing. It was a short drive to go and pick up Lily. During the drive, Claire asked, So when did it change? After the AIDS thing, I replied. When it finally clicked in her that it was my blood and cells that the cure was based on, she had some sort of reverence in her eyes whenever she looked at me. Maybe she's just crushing on you again. It happens sometimes. You can still have a crush on the person you're dating. I nodded in understanding, then said, Maybe that's it. There's another possibility. You're just trying to find an excuse to end things with her. I wasn't going to comment on that. Have you talked to her about this? Claire asked. I shook my head and said, It's hard to. Since we were already on the rocks once. I don't think the relationship can afford another late-night talk. You just have to go through with it, Claire said confidently. Believe me, it's better to just rip off the Band-Aid rather than let the wound fester. I turned to her and said, The Band-Aid is to stop the wound from festering. Why are you ripping it off? She was taken aback. It's a metaphor. I chuckled. Yeah. I'll follow your advice. I guess you have a lot of experience with this since you used to be a hot girl. Wait, what do you mean used to? She looked flabbergasted. I mean used to be a hot girl, now you're a hot mom? I replied hesitantly. Thank goodness she accepted that. The kids stampeded toward me when I entered Lily's daycare. I was held hostage by a 4-year-old boy's toy gun and had to sing a song with them before I could take Lily away. I sang some children's songs such as Bubbles, Who Took the Cookie, and more. You shouldn't come pick me up again, Lily said as we walked to the car together. Why? I asked, slightly hurt. Because then you'll have to sing again, Lily added. You don't like my singing? I pretended to be hurt. Lily answered dryly. No. Because you cannot charge them. Don't sing unless people pay for a ticket. Otherwise, you will be broke. Claire and I laughed at her response. Luke came back from school at 3. The family was finally together again after a few weeks, and I could watch the chaos ensue there. With a reluctant heart, I went back to my place at night. Ness, I have to talk to you about something, I said after calling her over. You're breaking up with me, aren't you? Ness guessed with a stoic face, then she seemed quite relieved. I wasn't going to, but are you hoping that I would? I asked, confused by her expression. Ness sighed and said, Well, since you brought it up, maybe I do? Why? I asked calmly. I'm too anxious when I'm with you, she said, her eyes a little teary. I can't relax at all when I can't see where you're at. And I hate the controlling bitch that I'm turning into. She added, You dated me just because you felt lonely. Not because you're in love with me. Her words stabbed deeply into my heart. That was the truth I'd been avoiding all along. I was happy at first, but I can't ignore all of my other, more sickening feelings that I have when I'm with you. You're sick of me? I was startled. No, she clarified quickly. I'm sick of feeling jealous all the time. When I saw you with your exes, I wanted to tear their hair out. Although I'd probably get kicked in the ass since most of them are taller than me. It's not a breakup because of someone's mistake. We've just reached the end point of the relationship, she said, forcing a smile. And for the first time ever, I don't feel that's a bad thing. I pulled her into a hug. We talked for quite some time before I ended things. We're still friends, and we're still going to hang out together. We're just not going to be each other's partners anymore. It felt bittersweet. The longest relationship I had, it ended just like that. We ended it on good terms, I guess. I really hope she didn't turn into a resentful or vengeful ex somewhere down the road. Chapter 395, Insta Live. Edward POV. Ness and I sat at the couch together. So, do I have to give you back the ring? Ness asked, fiddling with the golden ring on her ring finger. The ring with the musical notes, decorations I made for her before. I shook my head and said, No. I want you to have it. Ness smiled bashfully and said, No wonder all of your exes are crawling back to you. I chuckled and said, What's that supposed to mean? It means, you're quite special. She placed her hand on my cheek gently. She stretched her arms up in the air and said, I feel like a burden was lifted off my shoulder. The burden of expectations. It's tough being your girlfriend and being scrutinized for every little thing I did. I nodded in agreement and patted her head. Yeah. You've worked so hard. If anything, I'm the problem here. No, that's not what I mean, forget it. She rolled her eyes and then held my hand gently. If you'll excuse me, I'm going to go back home and cry, she said, forcing a smile. I said adamantly, Yuri's going to send you home in the helicopter. I wanted to drive you myself, but I think it'd be better if she did it. That's right, the helicopter. She suddenly realized something and grinned. I don't have to ride in that death trap anymore now that I'm no longer your girlfriend. Excuse me, but I'm taking the car back. I chortled and said, Whatever you want. Whatever? Then I want $1 billion. She joked. Sure. That's all? I asked with a smirk. She was taken aback and said, I'm just joking, don't send the money to me. I mean it. The next morning, we sat in the dining room with the glass ceiling and were having breakfast together as a family. Frankie, my mother, Aunt Camila, my dad, and also Vader were there. Maggie decided she was on Vanessa's side, so she wasn't going to come by, well, at least not officially. Vader ate some caviar-filled salmon, while a small, blue robot fanned her with a green plastic fan. Yuri pushed a trolley to the dining room and served pancakes to everyone. Each plate had 10 stacks of pancakes on it. She also served bacon and eggs to my dad before pouring coffees. Edward, your medicine is working wonders. My morning sickness is gone now, and I no longer have any aversion to poultry products, and even the eggs your dad's stuffing himself with. My dad froze for a second. I turned to Frankie and said, You don't have to give me a product review. I already knew the medicine would work. Then my dad sighed. Edward, your breakup, does it hurt less now that the country's about to erupt over the tax overhaul? I blinked. What? Frankie widened her eyes slightly. You didn't hear? No. I knew about the tax reform. It's how you knew about my breakup. I didn't tell anyone yet. Maybe Maggie knew, but she said she won't tell people. She lied. Frankie replied with a dry cough. She told me this morning. That bitch. I cursed underneath my breath. She had to. Vanessa wanted to pick up her stuff, and she didn't want to bump into you. So Maggie asked me to tell her when you're out of the house. Frankie tried to explain. I shrugged and said, Just tell her to come after this. I'm so busy I don't think I'll be home for a few weeks. Are you going to throw yourself into work now that you're single again? Like the last time? My dad asked with concern. I chuckled and said, Maybe. I paused slightly before continuing. Definitely. Yes. Frankie said. Is there anything involving, you know? She hinted. I shook my head and said, I don't know. I cannot plan for that. What is it? You guys kept it a secret but constantly brought it up in front of me. It's unfair, don't you think? Let me into the secret. My dad complained, aggrieved. Frankie teased him. Sorry, Ted. We promise not to bring it up in front of you again. That's not what I mean. I laughed, and then poured syrup on my pancakes. Oh yeah, the tax thing is today? I asked. Why? You're afraid they're going to come after you? My dad teased. Are you going to be part of the resistance? I mean, the new tax is going to be better than the previous one. The conglomerates only clamor that they were being robbed because they cannot use the tax loopholes anymore. Some of them paid less than a middle-class family in the country. The new tax reform was going to take the pressure off a lot of the ordinary people. But some states didn't want federal interventions on their land. I had helped with some states, basically using my Sharingan to make them comply with the changes, but the citizens themselves were also quite troublesome. Decades of conditioning made them react to something beneficial as socialistic, oppressive, communist manifesto, and so on. If the president could do this, then he was going to become the best president in modern history. A lot of economists, teachers, and the ones who were oppressed by the system were working hard on social media, trying to change people's minds. I didn't want to get involved directly in the conversation. By afternoon, I was in my lab when I decided I didn't know what to focus on in my work. So I decided to do a live streaming. Hello everyone. I greeted. 40,000 fans jumped into the live stream the second it started, and the chat became chaotic almost instantly. The numbers kept climbing higher and higher. A minute passed, and over 1 million people were watching the live stream. General POV. What is he doing now? Taylor grumbled as she entered the live stream. She was walking down the hallways at the entertain office and was going to the recording studio. Edward greeted her as he saw her name, which made a lot of the chats greet her too. Oh shit, I forgot to change the account. She muttered in shock. She greeted people too and then watched the live stream silently. Ronaldo told Pepper about it, and Pepper asked in confusion. Was it planned? Did he notify us about this? You're not the CEO anymore, Pep, Harvey said teasingly. He is. He doesn't have to notify you anymore to do something. Pepper sighed and said, I miss being the boss. Back to the live stream, Edward told everyone that his cat was pregnant, and showed Vader to his fans. When the time comes, I'm going to need your help to name the kitties. Edward joked to the chat, making them come out with suggestions. Edward read some of the comments and muttered, Why do I look so sad? That's really obvious, huh? Well, I just broke up with my girlfriend. Edward dropped a bomb on the entire internet. An entertainment journalist immediately called his editor and said, Huge news. I need the front page for tomorrow. Dozens, hundreds of entertainment reporters around the world mobilized themselves with just one sentence. The chat went silent for a while before it exploded into a frenzy. Rachel Brosnahan, you broke up with someone? Who did you date? Corin Sweet. Are you sure to do this publicly? +1. +1. +1234. The messages kept pouring in, and even with the built-in Sharingan, Edward couldn't read all of that. So he used his AI to compile people's biggest questions. Well, I'm not going to hide it. I don't have the right to do that, he said with a self-deprecating tone. Taylor was extremely astonished when she heard it, and muttered, He loved Hudgens that much? People kept asking who it was, and Edward replied, I'm still not going to tell you who it is. She can do it if she wants to. Some joked. Maybe you can write more songs about heartbreak. Maybe. But it's not a bad breakup. Whose fault was the breakup? Someone asked. It's my fault, Edward replied, which made a lot of the girls start swooning and volunteering to take his sadness away. He was already a heartthrob, now, he was a heartthrob with a broken heart. We're veering away from the original topic. I actually want to ask you guys, what should I do next? Sing a song. The majority commented before Edward could finish speaking. I mean, scientifically, but sure. I can sing a song. I have a song that has stuck in my mind since yesterday, he said before he raised his finger to the camera and said, Be right back. I don't have my guitar here. Bring us with you. We want to see your house. The people begged. All right then. Edward replied and then took a walk with them across the beautiful garden before entering his music room. There was a grand piano in the middle of the room, rows of classic, acoustic, and electric guitar at the side, a synthesizer, drums, violin, trombone, and most of the instruments in the world were there. People were shocked when they saw his room. Edward set up a camera. The left side displayed the guitar while there was a window on the right side, shining natural lights into the room. Edward picked an ordinary classic guitar and said, I hope that you guys will enjoy the song. It's called Love Like You. It's a new song more or less. Steven Universe Love Like You. As he strummed a sweet melody, Edward began singing with a melodious, soul-touching voice.
If I could begin to be half of what you think of me.
Phil commented as he watched the live stream at home with his daughters. Oh, this melody made me think of a children's show.
I could do about anything. I could even learn how to love.
Millions of people all over the world were mesmerized by the song.
When I see the way you act, wondering when I'm coming back, I could do about anything. I could even learn how to love like you.
Vanessa watched the stream using a burner account. She sat on the bed, with blankets on her back, staring intently at the screen.
Love like you. Love like you. Love like you. I always thought I might be bad, now I'm sure that it's true.
Frankie sighed. Ted glanced at her, holding her hand and giving him his tacit approval, already aware of what Frankie was thinking.
'Cause I think you're so good, and I'm nothing like you. Look at you go, I just adore you. I wish that I knew.
Vanessa was startled by the lyric. Her eyes began pooling and it flowed down endlessly. Edward's tone turned heartbreaking.
What makes you think I'm so special?
The audience was surprised by the emotions Edward was displaying. Many people were asking him if he was okay.
If I could begin to do something that does right by you, I would do about anything. I would even learn how to love.
Alex mumbled. So there is something he's bad at, huh?
When I see the way you look, shaken by how long it took, I can do about anything. I could even learn how to love like you.
Pepper complained. Now, if he's doing this to get her back, I will support him. But this song is more like an apology. It means that they are never getting back together. Taylor opened the door roughly, which startled Pepper and made him almost drop his phone. He was waiting for her at the recording studio. Edward sang sweetly.
Love like you. Love me like you.
Edward's last sentence changed a lot of the meaning behind the song. Lily, the fan club president, noticed that her cheek was a little wet. Wait, did I cry and didn't even realize it? She muttered to herself. All over the world, millions of people had the same experience. The melancholy, the bittersweet feeling the melody evoked, made the song a devastating experience for many. Suddenly, Edward's phone rang. He ended the stream instantly, explaining the situation simply. The president is calling me right now, so I have to go. There was an incident while the president was visiting a red state for his election campaign. A team of armed forces attacked him, and his suit was unleashed for the first time in public. The sleek-looking suit, with a medieval design on the helmet, made for a groundbreaking story in the news. It upstaged Edward's breakup announcement, and went viral everywhere. "Our current president is by far the greatest president who ever lived." CNN, Fox, and even MSNBC hailed him. Journalists stormed the White House for answers about the suit. The high-tech gear caused a media frenzy, and some people argued that the president had a duty to share the technology with the public. The tax reform, intended to help 80% of the country, was being treated as a hostile maneuver by the president's enemies, and several of the nation's oligarchs were not taking it well. Hundreds of black market bounties were posted on the dark web. Edward tried tracing them, but not all perpetrators could be found. The president asked him to maintain and upgrade the armor, saying he would stop by California before returning to the White House. "Just make sure no one knows I was the one who made it. Otherwise, I'll be targeted again." Edward sighed before ending the call. He threw the matter to the back of his mind. Although he had been supporting the reforms from behind the scenes, the vision was the president's. Edward would only intervene if absolutely necessary. Days passed, and the country sat atop a ticking time bomb. On a side note, now you see me passed the $900 million mark at the box office. People began noticing that in the top 5 movies of the year, Edward had been involved in 3. Now You See Me, at number 5, he directed and starred in it. The Avengers claimed the top spot with $1.9 billion. The Amazing Spider-Man held second place at $1.3 billion. Then came Skyfall, James Bond's latest outing, at $1.1 billion, followed by The Dark Knight Rises at $1.08 billion. The Hobbit had just been released and was catching up quickly. Newly single, extremely influential, and a kingmaker in Hollywood, Edward began receiving flirtatious DMs from girls asking if he wanted to meet up. But Edward didn't feel like hooking up with anyone, for the foreseeable future. Instead, he poured his energy into researching the 2012 apocalypse prophecy, diving deep into ancient history while simultaneously continuing his cancer research. Variety and other media sites covered his breakup by writing a few articles. "I'm the problem," Edward Newgate confessed that his relationship broke down because of him. Variety. A bittersweet farewell, Edward Newgate's ending a relationship with a secret lover. It was a chaotic week for the media in the country as they didn't know which story to focus on. 3 weeks had passed since the breakup. It was already mid-October. For the last 21 days, Edward hadn't left his house even once. His mustache had grown thick, and a stubble had formed on his chin. His eyes were bloodshot as he studied the thick research paper in front of him. Suddenly, a large foot kicked the door to the research lab open. "Edward! Let's go play!" Jacob screamed as he entered the lab, lunging toward Edward. Edward lifted his foot and slammed it into Jacob's face. "Dude! Don't come near. I'm studying the Zika virus." "Really?" Jacob retreated immediately. His eyes widened, and his whole body shuddered. "Edward, you're not thinking of starting a zombie apocalypse just because you got dumped, right?" Edward gave him a look of disbelief, not even dignifying that question with an answer. "If I wanted to start a zombie apocalypse, I would have done it a long time ago," he said casually. Jacob swallowed hard. "Thank goodness you still have us. If you were alone, I think the world would already be destroyed." Edward smirked. "You got that right? You haven't been checking your messages lately. Finish your work and let's go. Enid's doing a garage sale at her house." "Really? All right. Give me a few minutes," Edward said, beginning to clean up his station. "And shave that pedophile mustache too. It sickens me," Jacob jeered. Edward turned and said, "It sickens you, or you just miss my upper lip? Bitch, I have a girlfriend. Don't flirt with me. I'm putting a wall up." He gestured dramatically with his hands. "Putting a wall means there was an entrance in the first place," Besides, it's a new wall. It's not gonna be that strong. Jacob shuddered. I'm waiting out front. Edward just chuckled, then finished cleaning before shaving his mustache and changing his clothes. He wore a simple white shirt and jeans, paired them with white sneakers, then picked a McLaren to drive that day. The car was mostly Jacob's idea. Jacob had been coming by Edward's house every single day for the past 3 weeks to check up on him. Jenna, Enid, Elsa, Phineas, Billy, and many others kept popping by, which irked Edward. He just wanted to work. By the way, did you hear the news? Jacob asked as they were approaching Enid's house. What? Edward looked intrigued. Enid has a boyfriend now. Jacob grinned. Too bad. She's not waiting for you anymore. Edward shrugged. Good for her. He didn't really care about it. Garage sale, huh? He thought of something. I wonder if Manny has a garage sale too. At the garage sale, Edward finally met Enid's new partner. Edward, meet Michael. Enid introduced her new boyfriend. Hi. Michael shook hands with Edward giddily, squealing like a little girl and even slapping Enid's hand away when she tried to hold him. With hair like early Zac Efron and a stylish outfit, the skinny boy fangirled for quite some time before Enid finally pulled him away. Michael, come with me to see the books. Enid created an excuse to drag him off. But I still want to talk with him, Michael said, aggrieved. Jacob and Edward exchanged glances. Edward had already recognized the guy. It was someone Alex dated in the TV series. Since Alex had graduated early, Enid had apparently asked him out instead. So, he's gay, right? Jacob asked. Definitely. Edward nodded. Damn. Enid's gonna be heartbroken, Jacob muttered, glancing at her with pity. That wraps up this part of What If Karmic Gacha system in Modern Family World. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. The series What If Transmigrated and Taking Over Ichigo's Body is now on hold, since we've caught up with the author. Along with that, the series What If Becoming a Mangaka in One Piece World, 2 parts, will also be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next 2 projects for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What if hosting Q&A in One Piece World? What if Transmigrated in Ben 10 World as Ben's cousin? What if Transmigrated in Danmachi World with a system? Please vote in the poll and let me know which stories you'd like to see next. I'll take the top 2 picks and start working on those series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released 1 day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.